Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast, ripping up everything, off that, back to back is not.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, as always, guys, Coach Steve. We are back for another amazing episode today, guys. The NFL draft has come and gone. It was a show to watch for sure. And if you had a chance to watch it all weekend or at some point all weekend, it was a lot of fun to watch. But we got to break down the NFL draft and where everyone went. And we're going to do that today in a special two-part series, actually. Tonight we're going live now to talk about the quarterbacks and wide receivers. And if you're around later tonight, maybe you can't watch the full show right now. We will be doing another show later on tonight doing the tight ends and the running backs. So, sorry. We're going to get right into it here. If your team drafted some players you like, congratulations. Me and Coach Tyler are talking about our teams and how those drafts went there. But that's all well and dandy, but it's time to talk about fantasy. It's time to talk rookie drafts. If your league is starting their dynasty rookie draft right now, you kind of want to know what's going on with these players, or if it's maybe starting in a week because people want to give them time or whatever, or maybe you want to start in August, whatever it may be. It's important to talk about these landing spots here and whether or not, you should overbite or find a steal or a gem that might be worth taking in fantasy. So we're going to have it's actually a 3-episode series. Actually, we're not doing 3 episodes tonight, but we're talking about the quarterbacks and the wide receivers now. We'll talk about the tight ends and the running backs later tonight. And then next Monday, we'll do a live, maybe a live mock draft, kind of showing where the values are for a lot of different things in terms of where some players are going in certain rounds and where you can find the value in drafts for positions of need that you might need. So we're going to get into that. Other fantasy football news, trying to think real quick. Sam Howell did get traded during the NFL draft to the Minnesota Vikings. So those who, again, we'll talk about him soon, but Jalen Milroe, who got drafted to the Seahawks, you were concerned with your Sam Howell shares. Well, he has a good chance maybe to at least, maybe start week one, maybe at least, or at least be a prominent backup in Minnesota for the next season here. Bob Woods just signed actually with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's interesting. Not really interesting enough for fantasy, but yeah, that is something as well. It just came across my Twitter feed here, or X feed, whatever you want to call it. So there's that. Fantasy football is all right now about the rookies, and that's what we're going to get into tonight, guys. So let's get started right here off the top. Let's start with quarterbacks. There we go. Hold on. Let me just pull my full screen here. I thought I had this all set up already. There we go. All right. And let's switch the views to here or here. There we go. Sorry, guys. All right. So if you're listening live on our YouTube channel, I love always putting a great slideshow up for those who are listening live here as we go and break down this NFL draft here. So starting at the top here, in round one, we had 2 quarterbacks go off the board. Cam Ward, obviously the expected number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, goes to the Tennessee Titans. And Jackson Dart probably could have been somewhat of a surprise to few, but New York Giants decided to trade up and snag Jackson Dart in the end of the first round here. So, Coach Tyler, how do we feel about Cam Ward and his opportunity in Tennessee?
Yeah, I liked Cam Ward coming in. Obviously, he was the clear-cut number 1 overall, not necessarily in terms of being the most outstanding talent, but being that a lot of teams needed a quarterback, and he was the best one. I think he's going to have a great opportunity. The Titans had multiple calls coming in, multiple teams trying to get up to that number 1 spot, whether that have been for Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, whoever they felt deserved to be number 1. But Tennessee decided to, stand their ground, say, within 48 hours before the draft, which really we kind of knew 3 months before the draft that they were going to stay in that spot and pick a quarterback. I think he has the opportunity to succeed there. Obviously, new coaching staff coming in. The weapons are somewhat questionable. We see the Titans go out in the draft and go grab Alec Iomanner. They go grab Gunnar Helm at tight end, and then they signed Xavier Restrepo as a UDFA, if I'm remembering correctly. Pair him back up with Cam Ward. I think it's going to be a not ideal rookie year. I think he's going to be in a situation like a lot of number one overall picks that our quarterbacks fall into, and that's being with a team that was the number one overall pick for a reason. And so I see him to have a good opportunity in his career. He's a very calm, collected player, so I don't think he's going to be overly emotional. I don't think he's going to show a lot of those frustrations on the field, but I wouldn't bank on him, coming onto the scene, especially in fantasy in year one, especially with the offense that's around him and the defenses that are in his division.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cam Ward, obviously, like I said, this was a very, expected situation for him to kind of land in here. Obviously, Titans needed a quarterback situation. Cam Ward comes in with, a really strong final season in college there. And Tyler's right. He's probably not going to come in and just dominate like we've seen other rookie quarterbacks over the last few seasons do it. But, he's going to have an opportunity. He's got a relatively strong run game. I know the Titans are building that offensive line back up. There are veteran weapons on this Titans team here. Nothing that would say superstar, but again, that will probably be something that comes down the road in a few years. But, he has experience at the pass catching position, which I think will help him overall then rather than, having a young quarterback come in with the young players who are all trying to learn how to do it in the NFL. He'll have at least some, experience and knowledge from his pass catchers with, obviously Calvin Ridley and Tyler Lockett. But again, Cam Ward was the expected pick. The Titans had to take a quarterback here. Obviously, you can't win in the NFL without a quarterback, and you can't go another year watching Will Levis play quarterback here. Again, he's going to be a top pick in rookie drafts. Not the top pick, but a top, 5 or 6, top four pick, I'd say right now he's going into in rookie drafts. So again, it's a good pick for what the Titans need right now at quarterback. Over our next play here, Jackson Dart, another first-round quarterback, heads to the New York Giants here. Coach Tyler, what is your overall expectation for Jackson Dart? Do you expect him to be more of like a redshirt rookie year for him?
Yeah, we did see a lot of the talk that we had going into the draft was New York is probably going to draft a quarterback. We just don't know where, right? We had the offseason signings of Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, so they bring in, not on the higher end, but 2 starting caliber quarterbacks to be in that quarterback group. But I think the Giants said everything they needed to by trading back into the first round. Obviously grabbed blue chip prospect Abdul Carter with the 3rd pick. They weren't going to waste that on a reach on a quarterback, but they were able to trade up to 25 and get Jackson Dart at the end of the first round. They get the 5th-year option with that move. But I think the move tells us more than anything that the Giants are committed to what Jackson Dart has, right? We saw last year with the Hard Knocks offseason. Everyone was around Joe Shane's office trying to tell him, who to pick at quarterback, who to trade up for, right? And his son made the great comment, move up and get Jaden Daniels. You only have this job once. Why not act like it? And so he wasn't going to let another prospect slip through his hands again at the quarterback position. Now, Jackson Dart, I do not think is going to be Jaden Daniels. He does have a great elevated vertical attack. That's what he played in at Ole Miss. That's the system he comes from, and that's what he does. He is very underrated as a rusher, but I think pairing him with Malik Neighbors, pairing him with a little bit of what the Giants have been crafting up and what they're going to be able to have, right? Came in and got Scattaboo at really a advantageous position for them. Very much not a reach at all going out and getting him at the beginning of the 4th. But I think that it could be a redshirt year for him just because of the talent that is ahead of him. And I don't know how much Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston is going to teach Jackson Dart. I'm sure there's some nuanced things throughout both of those careers. But I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Dart starting the back end of this year, right? If he's able to go out and put on any kind of show, I know the fan base is excited for him. I know they're going to be calling for his number the second that Russ or Jameis Winston does any kind of wrong. But I wouldn't put it at him being the week one starter. Obviously, he can go out in camp and impress. He can go show a lot more than what even, I guess, the Giants would think going up and getting him at pick 25. But I doubt he's the week one starter. But I also wouldn't put it past him with his competition in the QB room to go out and possibly be the back end, following the bye week or following week 8, 9, be the back end of the season starter, especially if they start that season sub 500 and it looks like playoffs are almost out of contention. Let the young gun go sling it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely a world of possibilities where Jackson Dart does get a few starts under his belt in year one. I thought it was the right pick for them. I think the Giants, an organization that likes no nonsense when it comes to their, team. I feel like Jackson Dart kind of gave you no nonsense. He's a tough player, tough kid who's got a lot of raw upside attributes that, similar to a player that Brian Dable had back in Buffalo with Josh Allen to some extent there. And I think Jackson Dart, were they able to give up for him? I don't think it was a lot. I know some people thought it was a lot. I don't think it was that much personally because they were able to still get a dual Carter with their third overall pick and then go back up and get a quarterback, two positions they really needed, a strong defensive player and a quarterback. Again, I think he sits for a year. I think that if they continue to go down this, regime that they have currently right now, they're going to find ways to build around him. Well, it's obviously not going to be this year, but he's got an elite wide receiver one already. He's got some decent, wide receiver 2s and 3s on this team. He's got a good team around him. And, I think Dart was the right move for the Giants here. And again, for fantasy, he's probably not going to start too much, but he has some upside if he gets in that later season games. And getting right now, you're looking at Dart, you want him, you're looking at elite first, maybe an early second if he falls to round 2, but definitely a good quarterback if you're one of those, competitive teams, or if you're not rebuilding and you're trying to jump back up into the first round and get a quarterback, Dart's going to be there for you. So, all right, moving on. We move into round 2 of the NFL draft, and this one was I think for me, it was a shocker. I know a lot of people were high on this player, but Tyler, I'm going to say his name.
Shuck.
How do you say his last name? Shuck. Okay. Tyler Shuck obviously went to the New Orleans Saints at pick 40 overall. So you're looking at maybe a few picks going into round 2 here. 25 years old. Coach Todd, how do you feel about Shuck in New Orleans? Obviously, there's some situation going on with Derek Carr and his shoulder injury that his potential for the season is in jeopardy currently right now. Do you see Shuck as a potential week 1 starter?
I definitely see Shuck as a potential week 1 starter, just with the uncertainty that the Saints have had. Coming into the draft, everyone in their building and especially in their fan base was hoping to have the answer, right? About a month ago, Derek Carr comes out with an injury, and there's just a whole lot of speculation. Is he going to miss all of 2025? Is he going to be available for week 1? What's going on here? And the Saints didn't have that, clarification going into the draft. And they did spend up for Tyler Shuck. If y'all want to go back and watch our quarterbacks episode, y'all will hear how I speak about Tyler Shuck. I spent a lot of my college years watching him at Texas Tech, and there's a lot of words that I could say about the guy. But I do think that he has a good chance to be the week 1 starter if Derek Carr is not. I don't think that he beats out a healthy Carr in any way. But when you look at the quarterback room there with Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener, there's not a ton to really be threatened by as a second-round quarterback coming in to this team. And so I could very much see him being the starter. One of my favorite tweets coming out of the weekend was the Saints drafted Tyler Shuck so that they could for sure themselves Arch Manning at number 1 overall next year. So wouldn't put it past that situation happening either. But, they invested the capital in him. So they obviously believe that there's something there, whether he's going to be the backup or the week 1 starter because of Derek Carr injuries. But, 8th pick in the 2nd round. They didn't waste a ton of time going to get him. And now Cam Ward and Jackson Dart were gone. Shedeur Sanders, everyone saw the tremendous fall that he had. But I think if there's no Derek Carr, I would pencil him in as – if you told me today there's no Derek Carr, I pencil Tyler Shuck in as the week 1 starter, considering what the Saints paid to acquire him.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm still flabbergasted about why go after Shuck? Why go after him? You're looking at a guy who's got tons of experience playing football at a competitive level to some extent, obviously. I mean, the Saints, obviously, they feel like they can win their division, I guess. And they must need somebody who they feel can provide them with that stability at quarterback. Again, I wasn't always high on Tyler Shuck. I just wasn't high on him overall. And the fact that he's already 25 years old kind of threw me off. I believe I saw this thing today. He is the last player ever to be drafted in the 1900s. But really freaking crazy how the world is changing. I'm getting old. But you're looking at a guy I think could, do enough, probably not enough where the Saints are probably winning a lot of games, or if he's going to help your fantasy team. I think some of the Saints' best things on offense outside of Alvin Kamara is going deep. And for me, Shuck was never a deep ball guy, in my opinion. So it's going to be really interesting how he works with this offense and how they change this offense to him if he becomes the week 1 starter. If there's no Derek Carr, I agree with Coach Tyler. I think he beats out Spencer Rattler, at least for that chance. And they're going to give him, I think, every opportunity to do that if that's the case, because they spent the capital on him. There's a reason behind it. So right now, you can get him for pretty cheap. If you're a contending team, you can get him at the end of round 2. I've seen him go into round 3 of rookie drafts already. So he's moving. Not high in boards, and because people are already off on him, the fantasy capital for rookie drafts right now are showing that. So, all right, we'll move over to round 3 here. We'll start with the first quarterback here. Jalen Milroe picked 92 overall to the Seattle Seahawks. Again, another, you could say, shocker to some extent as the drafts were going on. But obviously, we know Jalen Milroe as the athletic, playmaking superstar with his legs type of quarterback here, which obviously prompted Seattle to trade Sam Howell this offseason here. So what's your outlook on on Jalen Milroe as a Seahawks?
Yeah, I think that the Seahawks are going to – he's just going to fall into that backup role, kind of what they had with Sam Howell. He's just going to be a whole lot cheaper. I think that Milroe – I think teams know exactly what they're getting with Milroe, and I think that's what the Seahawks saw, right? If Sam Darnold goes down, who you just paid all this money for, you've got this extremely athletic quarterback who, with some major accuracy issues, can go, jump into a game and completely change the dynamic, right? The Seahawks have that 2-headed attack with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet in the backfield. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Clint Kubiak, if Darnold goes down in a game, uses Milroe and those 2 backs to completely change up an offensive scheme and put defenses on their heels. I don't think he has an outstanding future in terms of fantasy production, unless you are in just a very deep super flex league and you have Sam Darnold and he goes down, right? He might be a good handcuff to have, considering the career that Sam Darnold did have outside of Kevin O'Connell's offense, obviously not walking into a Kevin O'Connell offense. So he wouldn't be a terrible handcuff to have at your QB position, but it just reminds me a lot of the Anthony Richardson experiment, just with a whole lot less draft capital. I see a big quarterback who is extremely mobile and not afraid to go run someone over, but also has extreme accuracy issues. And one of the hardest things to do as a quarterback in the NFL, one of the hardest ways to succeed, is by not being able to complete your passes. And so I see him as a possible handcuff. Even with the 3rd-round draft capital, I think the Seahawks liked him enough. I saw a lot of his pre-draft interviews were outstanding, and he was very much vocal about understanding his accuracy issues. But at the same time, this is I would say, the most athletic quarterback in the draft. And so you're getting a guy that can plug into a game, and he might not go win it for you with his arm, but if anything happens with Sam Darnold, if he goes down, if he just returns to New York Jets Sam Darnold, you've got the excuse to throw Milroe out there. He's got two outstanding slot receivers in JSN and Cooper Kupp that can do something for that offense, can get open and get in space so that Milroe can hopefully hit them. But I don't see him as much more than a handcuff or a late round flyer in your super flex leagues.
Oh, wow. He is going much higher than a late round flyer right now. He is a late second round pick in basically 8 rookie drafts I've done so far. I haven't seen him going past the 112 in any one so far. So there is reason to it. You can expect that, the obviously took him with somewhat decent capital. Obviously, again, third round isn't something to overly brag about, but it's something. They took him for a reason, and they got rid of Sam Howell for that reason to bring in Jalen Milroe. Milroe has a lot of good traits, and I've heard a lot of good things about his character. And, we've seen quarterbacks who have that mobile ability who we've questioned their arm with Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson at times, back when they were first coming in the league here, and it worked out. Now, it won't work out always, and we don't know if Milroe will work out, but this is a hardworking kid, and he's going to have an opportunity to sit and learn from a guy who, has come up from basically death all the way back up into an NFL starter in Sam Howell, and what it takes to really make it in this league here, and what hard work does. Hey, Jamie, what's going on? How are you? So Milroe is definitely going to be someone who you can take in round 2. Again, I haven't really tried to pull the trigger on him in round 2 yet, but he's in high upside backup in case something happens to Sam Darnold. You got a trade, send it over. Let us take a look. And yeah, so I like it for them. He's going to have an opportunity to sit. It gives Seattle an opportunity to have another option for their future if they don't think Sam Darnold works out after a year or two. It gives Milroe an opportunity to kind of come in without putting up high capital on a guy who I think has big upside if he can kind of find himself in the NFL. So I don't hate it. Again, could there have been a different situation there? Potentially. But Milroe is the guy there, and he's going late round 2 in rookie drafts right now. Over at our next set of quarterbacks here, we're going to do these ones together. Dillon Gabriel also landed in round 2, for me, a big shocker. Quarterback out of Oregon, lands with the Cleveland Browns. And then finally, going into round 5, Shedeur Sanders finally gets off the board here, landing at pick 144 in the 5th round to the Cleveland Browns here. Coach Tyler, I mean, do you think do either one of these guys have a true opportunity to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns? Because it's pretty wide open. Deshaun Watson is likely never playing again in Cleveland. You have 40-year-old Joe Flacco. You have incumbent starter Kenny Pickett there. Do you see either one of these guys being able to start for the Browns this year? And how do you feel about them?
I honestly do see a scenario where Shedeur Sanders starts for the Browns. I don't think that his fall was based on play by any means, right? He was the really number 2 or number 3 ranked quarterback by just about everyone going into the draft, right? ESPN, CBS Sports, all the whatever outlets you want to look at. He was either number 2 or number 3 because Dart was gaining a lot of traction. I think Shedeur Sanders fell because of everything that everyone would have guessed, and that's the circus that comes along with Shedeur Sanders, right? It's the name, it's the media, it's the I am the best player in the world type mentality, and not in the way that I am grinding out harder than anyone. It's the I don't have to do as much because I have it in the bloodline and I am just better than anyone. But I think the play at the end of the day, the Browns are going to possibly need, right? The Browns have had a quarterback problem for ever. It's not just a recent problem. It's just been ever. And Browns fans, I feel so sorry for you drafting 2 quarterbacks in this draft. But you had Shedeur Sanders in round 5. If someone told you that going into the draft for just about any team, I'm sure you wouldn't have hated it too much. But I don't really see a huge world where Dillon Gabriel goes in to be the quarterback. I think that was more the Browns kind of saving their butt coming out of the draft with a quarterback, because they do have, retirement home Joe Flacco and then a whole bunch of nothing behind him. And so I think that there really is a world that Sanders could be the starter. I think this was a, round 5 pick because the entire NFL thought that he needed to be humbled, and I'm ready to see what those pre-draft interviews looked like. But I think it has to be Sanders, if anyone, to be the quarterback of the Browns, because talent-wise, he's the best talent they have there at quarterback, right? If you asked me 10 years ago, I might say Flacco. But talent-wise, I think Sanders is the best talent they have there. Now, everything that comes with making Sanders a starter, I don't know if the Browns franchise is going to want that, but I know that, if you watch draft day, the way that the Seahawks fans are, beating down the doors of the GM's office trying to get in there because they weren't going to get Bo Callahan. That's fully what I believe could happen in Cleveland if Shedeur Sanders isn't the starter and they go, 1-5 to start the season. So I think Sanders is the only QB of the 2 drafted here that make it, if anyone. But again, that's on the front office to figure out if they want that circus or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll bring my opinion in a second here. But we do have a question in the chat here from Jamie. Was offered Gently and Tony Pollard for Bo Nix and Caleb Johnson, rookie out of Pittsburgh now. 10-man Superflex, defending champion. Congratulations. He also has the quarterbacks Lamar, Trevor, Nix, well, obviously Nix, Sam Darnold, and Joe Flacco. So, Coach Tyler, do you trade away Bo Nix and Caleb Johnson for a chance at Jet T?
I think you do. Tony Pollard wasn't necessarily hampered by any of this draft, and having a quarterback that can actually throw the ball is going to help him in the running game. Genty has slotted in for a lot of people, myself included, as a top 5 dynasty back coming out of Thursday when he got picked by the Raiders, right? Pete Carroll loves to run his running backs into the ground, and that's exactly what he's going to do with Genty. So I see Genty as the most valuable player in that, especially being a super flex league where you have Lamar and Trevor Lawrence, who just got a player that we're going to talk about later that makes him, hopefully a lot better quarterback for fantasy. But I mean, even having Darnold and Flacco, Darnold's going to be the starter for Seattle until he's hurt or returns to vintage form. And then Flacco, I feel, starts as the starter in Cleveland. Obviously, you can move things around with that. But I think the chance at Genty, especially when you're giving away a Caleb Johnson type player, obviously I know he's not the biggest one on that side, but I'd rather have Genty than Caleb Johnson and Bo Nix together.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that makes the most sense. Whether or not you believe, Bo Nix has another level to his game, which I think we've seen. I think the highlight of Bo Nix's, career here. I mean, I'm sure he can do decent, but not. I don't think there's a level where he's getting to that next level of superstardom. I think Genty, for a championship level team, you need that type of elite running back to kind of pair up with this championship roster you have here, Jamie. And I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if you're a running back needy. You're getting a guy who's going to see 15 plus carries, 18 plus carries pretty easily. And then you have Tony Pollard, who, again, is the starter for this team here. He's going to see work here. I know the coaches were talking about him either in the Senior Bowl or it was the Combine. I want to say it was the Senior Bowl, but they still like Tony Pollard there a lot. They signed him for a reason too, so we're good with it. We like it. All right. My other only running back is Gibbs. So yeah, having Genty and Gibbs, that's a combo that should hopefully you an opportunity for another championship. That's for sure. No, Sanity Dog said isn't Nick's Breeze Light Jr. Breeze Light though. That's fair. That's fair. Right. Since you already talked about the Brown situation, I'll just quickly kind of summarize my thoughts on it. Obviously what happened to Shedeur, it seemed like more of a statement than anything. Unfortunately, it's just what it is. I think there is talent there. Now, was I overly saying that he should be a top 3 pick personally? I didn't think that. I thought maybe late first round or was more. But was better for his situation. Hold on one second here. New content. Oh, okay. Big rice ball. What's going on? We're speaking dynasty. Yes, we're talking about dynasties. We're talking about these players and how they impact fantasy and where they are kind of going right now in rookie draft. So yes, you're in the right spot. And thanks for tuning in. So I think Shador, has got a wake-up call to his game there. He needs to understand that, he doesn't run the show. The NFL runs the show at the end of the day. No one else is bigger than the NFL, unfortunately. And now Shador is going to have an opportunity to battle out for the first starting job. It's likely going to be Flacco to start week 1. Can Shador beat out Dillon Gabriel, which I don't think Dillon Gabriel is all that good, and Kenny Pickett is not all that good either. I think he's got a great opportunity to at least be the backup early on and maybe take over. I'm not drafting Dillon Gabriel in rookie drafts. I haven't seen him go yet. I've gone into about the third round of a lot of my leagues so far. Don't think he will. Shador is like a late second, early third round pick in rookie draft, so you have opportunity to get him. He's kind of gone through in the entire second round, but I think there's talent there if you want to take a risk in round 2. We saw what happened to Michael Penix. I mean, a different situation, round 1, round 5, but we saw how that worked out for a lot of owners going into year 2, and we could be seeing Shador Sanders starting in 2026 as the full starter, and everyone's like, wow, we messed up by not taking him early in rookie draft. So a good high risk, low reward kind of situation for him right now. So, all right, let's see here. Let's go over to the rest of these quarterbacks. When we hit into round 6 now, Kyle McCord lands with the Eagles. Will Howard lands with Pittsburgh. Riley Leonard lands with the Colts. Graham Mertz lands with Coach Tyler's Houston Texans. Out of this real situation here, the only guy that is somewhat interesting is Will Howard. I don't know if you agree with me, Coach Tyler, because of the Pittsburgh situation. Do you feel like Howard has a chance to beat out Mason Rudolph? Because we don't know if Rodgers is going there or not. We don't know if another quarterback's going to land there. But at the moment, it's Mason versus Howard.
Yeah, I really do think Will Howard could win out that job. Just his consistency. I think there's a lot of openness and a lot of good weapons around him to be successful, right? We just saw him go. He was somewhat successful at Kansas State, and then he went to Ohio State with all the talent in the world around him and went and won a national championship. But you look at, the addition of Caleb Johnson on top of Jaylen Warren. There were talks about George Pickens possibly being traded during the draft, but he doesn't get traded. So now you have DK Metcalf and George Pickens,
and
Woods, Bobby Trees. But you have, 2 alpha big receivers that can win downfield. You have Pat Freiermuth, who is still somehow an underrated tight end. He's not blowing anyone away in fantasy, but for real football purposes, he does it. And then the offensive line, they've been working that offensive line over the past few years in terms of drafts and free agency. So he walks into a great situation where he's competing with Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson for a starting quarterback spot. If there's any draft room I would rather compete in this draft room than the Browns one, honestly. I trust
Sure.
that, being who Will Howard is, and if you haven't watched it, go watch Gruden's QB camp with him. Kid knows ball and kid competes. But going into a quarterback room with Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, the only advantage they have is knowing the playbook. But he's learned multiple playbooks, been under multiple OCs. But talent-wise, before he takes a snap in the NFL, I put him above both of those guys. So I like Will Howard to win that job. And honestly, I don't hate Riley Leonard. He could be a sneaky one to come out.
That's fair. I wasn't really high on Riley Leonard, but it'd be interesting to see what happens to him in Indianapolis. But Will Howard, I was a big fan. I think I had him as my QB 5 or 6 coming into the NFL draft here. He's a smart kid. He was obviously kind of really showed us this past season some of his traits to be able to lead a football team. Obviously, going to win a national championship is a big thing. And again, they have a guy who's got experience in the big game, and I think that's what the Steelers kind of need, is a guy who can get a team over the top by doing what he does best. And right now in fantasy, we're going into round 3 of my rookie draft right now. I'm in a lot, but I have like 7 or 8 going right now. Will Howard, He's still there midway through the third round. So you could probably get a guy, especially you contending teams in the late third round, who might have an opportunity to start in 2025. I think Will Howard offers a potential, QB2 value, bye-week replacement value for fantasy this year if he can land that starting job, which I think he could, because we've already seen Mason Rudolph in Pittsburgh. There's a reason he wasn't there this past season. Like there was, unfortunately. That's why they didn't sign him this past year. Howard has an opportunity to start for Pittsburgh, and it's a good opportunity for sure. So, Jamie, go ahead. You can absolutely shout out your podcast. We're here to promote everybody. No worries at all. Go for it. Strong Pittsburgh call. Very nice. Thank you, Fantasy Dog. We appreciate that as always. So going over to, I think there's one more slide of quarterbacks here. There are. So finishing off round 6, Cam Miller, who I had no idea prior to the draft who he was, ends up with the Las Vegas Raiders. Curtis Roque lands with the San Francisco 49ers. The Dolphins took Quinn Ewers in round 7. He was the last quarterback to go in this draft here. I put a couple other guys who went undrafted. Heath Hengen. I can't even say his last name.
Seth Hennigan.
What is it? Seth Hennigan. Thank you. I'm terrible with names, guys. Seth Hennigan lands with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Brady Cook lands with the New York Jets. Outside of this, Coach Ty, the only one I want to really briefly mention real quick here is, Quinn Ewers. Obviously, Quinn Ewers' name pops up a lot, obviously being very popular in the college ranks this past season. Well, maybe not this past season, but obviously that was a name to know heading into the 24 season for him. And obviously he lands in the 7th round. He turned down $8 million to make less than $1 million this coming season. So I'm not sure if that was the right call for him, but we'll have an opportunity to beat out Zach Wilson for the backup job. And we know that Tua gets injured. Ewers is a great late round quarterback to absolutely add to your fantasy team in rookie drafts right now. I doubt he goes anywhere before round 4. And if you're in round 4 and you have an opportunity to take him in any super flex leagues, absolutely is a great time to do it. I don't know if you agree with
that. Yeah, I do like Ewers. I had a 3rd round grade on him. Like you said, Tua gets hurt a lot, and that's not a terrible offense to be the backup in, all the weapons that are there currently. So I like him as a stash. He could definitely find some playing time just in, Tua's consistent injury. But y'all also got to remember, Tua's like a concussion away from basically the league saying, hey, we don't want to be liable for you, get out. So he's not a terrible stash in terms of the fact that he could just be the injury fill-in. But at the same time, it's, one hard tackle away from Quinn Ewers being the starter for the foreseeable future for the Dolphins, at least going into 26.
That's fair. Yeah, all my rookie drafts right now, I plan on taking Quinn Ewers, my last pick. If I have one, if I have an opportunity to do it, I'm absolutely going to do it, especially in Superflex. You can never have enough quarterbacks in Superflex leagues. That's what I always say. All right, that's enough with the quarterbacks. Again, it wasn't a great class. There's only a few guys I really want to go after in rookie drafts. Cam Ward, if you really need a guy. Jackson Dart's decent. If you want to take shots on Milroe or Shador, great. Late round flyers on Quinn Ewers. And what was the other guy? I can't even think of his name now. Oh, God. Howard. That's the draft right there. That's how this quarterback class is kind of going. It's not strong. It's not something you really overly want to invest in, but neither is the next class we're going to talk about here either. Neither is the wide receivers, unfortunately, here. So let's get into the wide receiver talk here now. Starting at the top, we had 4 wide receivers go in round 1. At pick number 2, after a trade up from the Jacksonville Jaguars, Travis Hunter went the 2nd overall pick. Whether or not you believe he's playing wide receiver full time, even though the Jags have come out and said that he will start at wide receiver. Ted McMillan went to the Carolina Panthers. Abeka, I can't say names for my life.
Mika Igbukah.
What? Mika Igbukah. Oh my God, I'm gonna remember that one day. I have to remember it. I don't know why I can't remember it from my life. I know it, but I don't know it.
Godwin's job, you'll remember it.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I'll totally respect on his name. And Matthew Golden. These 4 wide receivers went in round 1. Golden went to the Packers. Ibuka went to the Bucks. So of these 4 wide receivers, Coach Tyler, which one do you like the best in for fantasy?
I'll give you the safe option is going to be T-Mac. He was, really regarded as the number 1 receiver in the draft process. And I think it was prospect fatigue that really made people kind of get hateful on T-Mac's name. They kept pushing him down draft boards. They kept saying, oh, he could go in the top 5, top 10, but also he could be like pick number 30 something, like falling all the way down boards. And the Panthers really solidified exactly what everyone that wasn't listening to all the noise knew, and that's that McMillan was a top 10 pick, right? He goes in to be the alpha with, 30-something-year-old Adam Thielen. You had a little late season breakout by Jalen Coker, but this is a 6'4" receiver that's going to go get the ball wherever Bryce Young puts it. So I have him as my conservative number 1. My true number 1, if y'all watch our wide receiver episode, you know this. I said if Travis Hunter is playing any bulk of snaps on offense, he's my wide receiver 1. And the Jags, not only draft him and say that he's going to start primarily on offense and then work in some packages on defense, to move up 3 spots to get him, they traded, to move from 5 to 2, they traded 5, number 36 overall, a 4th-round pick that was number 126, and their 1st rounder next year. And then they got a 4th and a 6th back. Not anything too outstanding, right? But to move up 3 spots to go get Travis Hunter, they traded basically, if you want to take the first out that they moved back 3 spots, they traded next year's 1st, a 2nd, and a 4th for him. And they immediately came out and said he's starting, he's playing primarily offense. He's majoring in offense, minoring in defense. He is the highest drafted receiver since Calvin Johnson. He is the highest drafted corner, I think, ever. So whether you want to put him in the corner bucket or the receiver bucket, he's up there. He's a special talent. And for the Jags to go out and get him and say, hey, not even 4 hours after he's drafted, he's going to start on offense, that should tell you everything you need to know for fantasy. Obviously,
we got
breaking news.
Breaking news. The Cleveland Browns have come to an agreement with wide receiver Deontay Johnson landing in Cleveland. Is he become draftable now? Is he draftable?
Not until he learns how to catch a ball.
Okay. There's no one else. I mean, there's a couple people
there. There's a couple people there, but also we've seen a big downfall from him, and drops have not been anything that's changed in that.
That's true. Well,
but back to Travis Hunter. He's someone that I said if he's playing the bulk of snaps on the offensive side, whether he's playing defensive or not, he's my wide receiver 1. And so the Jags go out. He's not going to be the primary focus for defenses, at least starting out, because they have Brian Thomas Jr., right? It's not like he's walking into an offense where he has to be the entire offense and the entire defense. But I think he's going to be a great, 1A, 1B. I think talent-wise, if he was solely playing receiver, when you look analytical and everything, he's better than Brian Thomas Jr. Now, we'll see what it looks like when it translates to an NFL field, but they don't make that move and then say he's going to play primarily on offense if they don't think that he can be a game changer. So I don't think he goes out and is a top 5 dynasty wide receiver immediately, but if he does anything on that offense, especially an offense led by Liam Cohen of all people, who had, multiple offenses that have had 2 wide receiver 1s on them, I love every second of it. I'm taking Travis Hunter with my 102s, 103s in drafts, depending on running back need. But Hunter's my real number 1. If you want to play it conservative, if you want to know I'm solely getting a receiver, McMillan's your guy. But I don't think you go wrong with either of them.
Yeah, no. Both those guys are right now in rookie drafts. Their ADP is top 4, top 5 at worst. I was actually able to get McMillan at the 1-6. I was hyped. But both guys are players that I want in Dynasty right now. Just briefly on the other guys, Ibuka and Golden. Ibuka is a guy who do not get turned off by the situation in Tampa Bay. He's a talented wide receiver. Mike Evans is going to be gone very soon. Chris Godwin, he may have signed that deal, but he is a guy coming off an injury who's a bit older. Ibuka is someone that, again, even if it's a contending team, just put him on just draft him. Just draft him because he's going to shine at some point. I think he fits this offense really well. Just the Bucs took advantage of a good situation they have at wide receiver. And unfortunately, Ibuka might pay for it in year 1, but long term, he is a wide receiver to own. Matthew Golden, first Packers wide receiver drafted in God knows how long. I mean, he's interesting as well. A deep threat downfield for Jordan Love. If Christian Watson is going to miss time going into 24, Golden has an opportunity to step up and be the wide receiver 1 for this team, or at least be their downfield threat. Again, he's probably more of like a round 2 pick right now, if I'm not mistaken. He goes in between pick 201 and pick 206. That's kind of the range we're going to get Matthew Golden right now in fantasy. So, all right, let's head over to the next round and hit into round 2, the top of the board here, Jaden Higgins. Let's start with this here, Coach Tyler, since this is your team here. Jaden Higgins, essentially the second pick into round 2 here now. How do you feel about Jaden Higgins, and is he someone that people should be considering in fantasy right now?
I do like Jaden Higgins. I liked him in the draft process. He is a guy that I said reminded me a lot of Xavier Hutchinson, who the Texans drafted, so I was kind of scared off of him. And so they go out and draft Xavier Hutchinson 2.0. We are just Iowa State receiver. We're their master's program, I guess. But Higgins sets up extremely well in Houston, right? Because we look at this big 3 of receivers that the Texans were supposed to have last year, barely played any games together. But Stephon Diggs is in New England now. Tank Dell is most likely missing the entire season next year. So it's Nico Collins, and then you have Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie. Like, there's not a ton of competition there. So Higgins sets up really well as the other outside guy. I think he could very much fall into the, second. He could have the second highest targets on the team, easy. Him and Noel, I think, play extremely well in terms of playing off of each other. I don't think anyone's coming for Nico's spot at the top. But, they were second round wide receivers. Neither of them are going to really surpass him if everyone is healthy. But Higgins is a big body receiver. People were saying that he's a Nico Collins clone, right? He's 6', I want to say he was 6'3", 6'4", ran, low 4.4s. Like, he's a big guy with speed that can win downfield. So you don't hate to have that on the outside, especially as a Texans fan.
Absolutely. Let's see. I like Noel slightly over Higgins in pre-draft. I don't hate it. Now I think Noel will take a year after Kirk leaves, so I'm taking Higgins first. I like it, Jamie. But yeah, Higgins was someone I was high on. He was in my top 10 here. I think it shows that he went as high as he did. The Texans obviously needed some talent at wide receiver. I know Christian Kirk is there, but again, Christian Kirk is getting older, coming off an injury. Higgins, I think, has an opportunity to really cement himself as the wide receiver 2 on this team and the second pass catcher in this offense here. And he's a discount right now. I mean, you're looking at him in not redraft, but in rookie drafts. I mean, he's going mid to late round 2. So if you like Higgins, if you like an opportunity for Houston, again, we're hoping that Houston's offense can kind of improve after what we saw last year. Higgins is a great value right now in rookie drafts because he is going much lower and has an opportunity to be a 80-plus target guy in his rookie season. So going over to some more of the round 2 wide receivers, Luther Burton off the board, heading to Chicago in round 2. Trey Harris, wide receiver out of Ole Miss, heading to the Los Angeles Chargers. And the finish off round 2, Jack Betch goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. So, Coach Tyler, out of these 3 wide receivers here, who at the most point, all somewhat round 2 picks, Burden and Harris are more like early round 2. Betch is kind of more of a late round 2 pick. who's your favorite wide receiver out of this trio here?
Pre-landing spots, Luther Burden would have won by a mile. But Jack Besh is someone that I really like. He's someone that, I talked about highly during our receiver episode pre-draft. He's someone that a lot of teams loved pre-draft process, and a lot of that came from his performance in the Senior Bowl, right? 6'1", 214, had some decent numbers at the combine, but he's just, if you remember being in youth football and there was just this one player that was the coach's favorite because he just did everything right. He wasn't, the most outstanding athlete on the team. He didn't do, this or that crazy thing, but he just did everything right. That's Jack Besh. And so he's probably my favorite coming out of the draft of these three, and really of honestly somewhat the second round wide receivers, because you look at the Raiders depth chart. I mean, he has Brock Bowers to go against. No one expects him to be the leader there. He has Ashton Jeanty to go against, who he's not a running back, so we know what that's going to be. But you've got Jacoby Myers, and that's kind of it in terms of the wide receiver competition. I think he could very much come in and be the second target getter in this offense. I think he could beat out Jacoby Myers, return Myers to kind of that downfield role, and it'd be Bowers, Besh, and Myers in terms of the top three target getters. Obviously, we'll see how they use Ashton Jeanty in the pass game, but I think Besh has the easiest route to be the wide receiver one for his team of these three, because Burden's competing with everyone in the world. Trey Harris, he's a great downfield guy. He's going to be someone I'm targeting a lot in best ball, but not someone I don't think he's going to beat out Ladd McConkey. I think I heard someone say he's basically the Quentin Johnson redo. They're trying to get that pick right. And I think Trey Harris could be that.
Unfortunately, he deals with drops as well. So
Besh is my favorite out of these three. I think he just has the easiest path to be a wide receiver one. And if not, he has the easiest path to being the highest targeted wide receiver two of the three. So,
yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I think Besh really stands out because Geno Smith does like to kind of circulate the ball around a little bit more on the offense than we saw from last year from Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Again, Harris is interesting. I'm still concerned that he's kind of more of a boom or bust type of player. Like you said, best ball kind of gives me a better fit for a guy like Trey Harris there. It's interesting because we all, Justin Herbert, it's that passing offense that started clicking at the end of the year. And so that's what turns a lot of people on. But he might be someone who I think ends up being overdrafted because of the hype behind being with Justin Herbert a little bit there. And then Luther Burden, I think he's fine. I with Luther Burden, he needs to be used the right way. And that's the issue with fantasy, is that I don't know how he's going to be used. If Brian Johnson can find a way to use him the right way, he's got the sky's limit. If not, you're wasting an early second round pick. Like Burden and Harris scare me early second round picks, so mid to early second round picks. Well, Beck, kind of understand him a little bit more and prefer him in this situation here. So, let's talk about two other guys real quick here, who I think some people would have thought didn't expect them to go at all as high as they did. And Kyle Williams landing in the third round to the New England Patriots, and Isaiah Tesla landing with the Detroit Lions. And I think Big Rice Ball wants to know, how should we account for Tesla's value moving forward based on what Elon Musk tweets? I didn't see that part. Well, if you want to talk about Tesla here, Coach Tyler, and then maybe about how that would affect with Elon.
I've been paying attention to what Elon's tweeting, but he could definitely have something there. Tesla, he's just a big body receiver. Jameson Williams is still there, the big speedy downfield guy. But, I definitely thought he got drafted too high. The Lions have drafted extremely well the past few years under Dan Campbell's tutelage. But, this is a 6'4" receiver that ran a 4.43 at the combine. So you're getting a good athlete in that. I don't think he was anything outstanding in college, so the pick kind of confuses me. But this also, could just be something to open up the outside to move Amon-Ra to the inside, to move him into the slot where he really does his best work, right? To possibly stick Jameson Williams through the seam. But I don't know how much I like Tesla for fantasy value. I think he's going to open up a lot more for your Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams shares. So happy about that one. But I did like the Kyle Williams pick. He was a lot of people's sleepers, or a lot of people's sleeper going into the draft. And, New England was one of those teams. If Travis Hunter fell to the 4th overall pick, there was talk that he would be, very much in play for Drake May to get a weapon, right? That's been one of the biggest things for this offense, and one of the biggest things they've talked about is, all right, we've got our franchise quarterback, we've got a somewhat decent defense with the defensive head coach. Let's go put weapons around our young guy and help him succeed, right? Go get a great tackle for him and Will Campbell. Go get Travion Henderson for him at running back. And Kyle Williams is someone that a lot of people loved going into the draft. And so it's not surprising to see him here. I think he's going to learn a lot more than he's going to do in year one from Stephon Diggs. I think they play a lot of a similar game. I think he has the ability to make a big play, but I think it was more the Patriots banking on, getting Drake May weapons above everything. The depth chart is somewhat open there in New England, right? You have Stephon Diggs coming off of a, torn ACL. You have Pop Douglas, who has shown flashes. You've got a bunch of guys behind him that everyone hoped would be good and really haven't been. But if I'm picking of the two, I'm taking Kyle Williams based on possible production, college production, really just everything that goes into making a draft pick. But I think Tesla is going to be more of a better NFL, better scheme fit for their offense than he will be a fantasy player. So I like Williams of the two, but I do feel like both of them were kind of drafted ahead of where they should have been.
Oh, 100%. I think Tesla reminds me more of like a Gabe Davis type, to be honest, a little bit there. Williams, I think, is someone I think they drafted who could take the top off this offense here, which something they really didn't have this past season here with their wide receiver group. It's something that kind of opened the field a little bit more for the guys underneath. And I think Williams could do that very well. And again, if you like either one of these guys, again, I kind of agree with Coach Tyler. Williams would be my more preferred situation, but both are going late. Williams is like a mid-round 3 pick. And to be honest, Tesla hasn't even been picked in any of my rookie drafts yet. And again, some of them are like deep into round 3. So he's going to be available if you like him, and Williams will be available likely in round. He just went at the 3.8 in one of my leagues just now. So again, you can get these guys late if you think draft capital for them is worth it for your fantasy team. So let's over to the rest of round 3 here. Pat Bryant goes to the Denver Broncos. We kind of mentioned Jalen Knoll landing with the Houston Texans. Savion Williams, wide receiver at TCU, lands with Green Bay. Another wide receiver for Green Bay. And this one right at the end of the night, Tajay Felton of round 3 lands with Minnesota here. Just real quick, Coach Tyler, do any of these guys, who do you like the best out of that grouping there?
Best out of the grouping, I'm going to have to go Knoll. I think that he is going to have to compete with Kirk. This isn't because he's a Houston guy. This is just because I see the easiest path to production with him. I was never, huge on Pat Bryant. He does go into a semi-empty receiver room, but I think talent-wise, he doesn't beat out a lot of what is there. Savion Williams, he, gets drafted in the same draft as Matthew Golden, so that automatically puts him lower than these other guys because they're not competing with round 1 receivers. But he's also got, outside of Matthew Golden, who was drafted a day before him, he's got Jaden Reed. He's got, if Christian Watson can ever be healthy, he's going to be on the field above Savion Williams. If Dontavian Wicks wants to catch a ball, he'll be on the field above Savion Williams. So, and Ty Felton, obviously, he's behind Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. I shouldn't have to say anything about that. I think Noel has the
absolutely not.
easiest path to production. Like I said, he'll be behind Kirk starting out. Kirk hasn't been outstanding the last couple years, so there's definitely room for the Texans to move him around. But also, the run game for the Texans hasn't been outstanding, and they've destroyed that offensive line over the offseason and not really done too much to rebuild it. So I think there's a lot of chance that we see some CJ Stroud get the ball and throw it to anyone off the snap. And so Jalen Noel could be a big beneficiary of that. I think he has the talent to beat out Kirk. You know, they got him middle of round 3, paired him back up with his teammate that we just talked about. But I think he just has the easiest path to production in terms of both talent and opportunity. Bryant may have opportunity. I don't think he has talent like that. Savion Williams, neither. Ty Felton, neither.
Yeah, absolutely. Noel's the only one that's been really going in drafts. You're looking at like anywhere between late round 2, early round 3, mid round 3 range. I haven't seen Pat Bryant go, Savion Williams, Tajay Felton's go. I think, again, if I'm picking out of the other 3, Pat Bryant's someone I'm willing to take a shot on and see if he can win out a job in Denver. But I don't think Williams and Felton are going to do that as much. I think they're high-end depth pieces for their teams, but likely won't be drafted too often in rookie drafts this year. Moving on to round 4, we have, again, another surprise. Chimar Dyke, I can't say his name right, but he goes in first pick in round 4, not first pick, but the first wide receiver off in round 4 to the Tennessee Titans. And then we have a slew of wide receivers. Deontay Thornton lands with the Las Vegas Raiders. Arian Smith lands with the New York Jets. Jalen Lane lands with the Commanders. Jalen Warles lands with Kansas City. The Titans again take another wide receiver with Alec Alamere. Is there another wide receiver that goes in round 4? And Jordan Watkins also goes to the San Francisco 49ers. So I'm going to stick to this page more because I would assume that if we're going to find a player in round 4 who we like the best, Coach Tyler, it's probably going to be on this page here. So in this round 4 range, is there someone that sticks out to you more that people should be really looking forward in rookie drafts?
I would have to go with Alec Manor. I do like Jalen Royals. Obviously, anyone that gets to be connected to Pat Mahomes, you love. But Manor was someone that a lot of people loved coming out of the draft. Just big body guy. Comes in at 6'2", right? Good hands, good production in college, ran 4.4s at the combine. So he's got, speed to his size. But again, we talk about opportunity, right? Even with, I'm not even going to try and say his name, Chimar Dike, whatever it be. I don't know how he got picked before Io Manor, but, he walks into a receiver's room that has an aging Calvin Ridley. They have basically an aged out Tyler Lockett, and then Treylon Burks is there. We don't have to say anything about him. So, he's competing at least to get in that third receiver role with, I'm going to go with Chimar and Van Jefferson, right? Like, these are guys that Io Manor, I think, has the ability to beat out because I don't think Treylon Burks holds that spot for too long if he does. But this is a downfield receiver. He adds a lot of size to their receiver room. And I think that he, of the guys on this, on this plane right here, is going to, come off in your drafts the earliest. I think he has the best ability to end up on the field. And we love when rookie quarterbacks get rookie receivers because they're learning it all together. They're running through it all together.
Even though I said the opposite. Actually, Jalen Royals is actually going relatively with decent capital right now. If I can just find out where he is out on my board. Jalen Royal. I feel like I'm missing him. Maybe. I have to look because he's definitely maybe it was Noel. I have to look. But Jalen Royal is definitely a guy. I like 3 guys on this list. I like Jalen Lane. I think a nice speedster type of wide receiver fits what Washington's missing a little bit there because I don't think looking at, it's Terry McLaurin. I don't see a major speedster out of him. I don't see Deebo Sanders as a speedster at his age. Jalen Lane can run the ball real fast. And I'm interested to see how he kind of pairs up with, Jaden Daniels and his ability to throw the ball deep. Jalen Royals, very interesting. Again, we do this every year with any kind of Kansas City wide receiver. You got to draft them. And again, based on my ADP, he hasn't been drafted yet either. Oh, there he is. I see him. He's kind of more like a late round 2, round 3 pick right now, depending on what someone views him as. Again, he's got a lot of wide receivers to deal with, a lot of pass catchers to deal with there. But again, the upside is there for him to kind of be that downfield threat for Kansas City. And like Coach Stiles said about Ayomayer, I liked him a lot. I think he was my wide receiver 5 pre-draft here. Obviously, draft capital around floor is okay, not great, but they could use that big body wide receiver to help out a guy like Cam Ward at quarterback, someone who can kind of go up and get the ball, and that's kind of what he does. So he's another guy kind of interestingly again, he's not really going all that early either. So all these guys in round 4, the best one is Jalen Royals in terms of ADP, but again, Lane or Ayomayer, both players that kind of have sleeper potential on both of them guys in later rounds. So, all right, moving on to round 5. Round 5 really didn't have a lot. Kendra Lambert Smith went to the Chargers, who I had no idea who that was prior to the draft. Troy Horton lands with Seattle. Again, that was a guy I kind of really had high on my list there. I don't know how you feel about him at all, Coach Tyler.
I liked him. I didn't love him. There's a guy that you're going to talk about in a second that I liked a little bit more. I don't know. Is that supposed to be 236, not 136? Jimmy Horn?
Probably, yeah.
Jimmy Horn. I didn't love Horton. I know a lot of people had him high, but going to Seattle, there's just a lot of competition there for targets already, and he's not. I don't think he breaks through those top 2. He brings size, but that's about it, as opposed to the JSN Cups and everyone that he's going against.
Yeah. I mean, he has an opportunity to kind of have an outside role. You look at JSN, you look at Cooper Kupp, both slot, more likely wanting to play in the slot. Horton can kind of play on that outside. I think he might be worth a late rookie draft pick and see what kind of happens there in Seattle, because they do need weapons to kind of play. So heading over to round 6, LeJohntay Webster lands with the Baltimore Ravens, another guy I did not know prior to this draft. Jimmy Horn Jr., Jim Horn, if you ever know who that is, former Saint, long time ago, lands with the Carolina Panthers, and I think there are more round 6 picks. And Tommy Melliott, again, guy I did not really watch all that much of prior to the draft here. Is there something you want to say about Jimmy Horn? Because you did mention his name before there.
I just think the play speed and the returnability is going to be a lot for him, especially going into this Panthers offense. There is a lot of size there. They got McMillan. Xavier Leggette's not a small guy by any means. Horn is a little undersized, right? 5'8", 174. But if you watch any of his tape from Colorado, he burns. And I think that's his biggest quality, his biggest trait. But he's also an outstanding kick returner, right? Before he went to Colorado, he was an all-conference, I think first-team all-conference kick returner. He was at South Florida before he went to Colorado. But I think he's going to be able to get on the field because of that. I think he's going to obviously play a slot role above anything else. But LeJohntay Webster is also a guy that I know a lot of people liked his tape. But, the Baltimore receiver room is kind of tricky. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought these guys were more like special teamers in round 6 than anything else there. I don't expect any of them to be drafted in rookie drafts right now. It's just kind of how I feel about all of them. Heading into round 7, we have a bunch of wide receivers here. Tez Johnson, the Bucs decided to draft another wide receiver in their draft. Ricky White lands with Seattle. Caden Pratcher lands with the Buffalo Bills. Katoda Murfield lands with the Los Angeles Rams. And then Dominic Lovett lands with the Lions. Junior Bergen lands with the 49ers. And, we'll just kind of go through the UDFAs as well. Xavier Respo, as we kind of mentioned before, lands with the Steelers post-draft. Will Shepard lands with the Bucks. Nick Nash lands with the Falcons. I think that's all of it, actually. Yeah. So of those final rounds, guys, Coach Tyler, is there anyone that stands out that might be worth taking a shot on at the end of your rookie drafts?
The end, I feel like really, I mean, just Restrepo has the connection with Cam Ward. That's really all I'd say about that. I think that works in his benefit above anything else. In Nick Nash, he was just an extremely productive receiver. He was a productive receiver at San Diego State. So he wasn't, power four. He wasn't blowing teams away and everything, but has a lineage of receivers in his bloodline, right? His father and uncle, both receivers. I think his dad played in the NFL. He's got a lot of experience under his belt. And he was a, quarterback coming in that switched to receiver. He's got skills. He's able to get open 6'2.5", so he's got size. I think he can work out a role in the Falcons room, possibly. They obviously, Drake London's not losing his spot. But there is a crazy world where his production goes into a role there, right? You've got Darnell Mooney, who had a little bit of a coming out party last year since his time with the Bears, but Ray McLeod, Kadarius Hodge, Chris Blair, Jamal Agnew, like these are all guys that if Nash can perform like he did at San Diego State, he could easily work his way up into at least a few snaps. I'm not saying, go grab him with your second round pick. He's going to be a great value, but he's a taxi squad stash if I have the space for him because, again, talent and opportunity, they could both arise there for Nash.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Respo is definitely someone I think end of rookie drafts, priority waiver wire pickup. Nick Nash is someone as well. I liked Caden Prater. He was just someone I like whose film I really did like to watch. Again, not great capital or anything like that, but lands with a situation where Buffalo, do they really have a strong wide receiver 3 per se? There's potential there. Ricky White was another guy I kind of didn't hate film, but again, another situation where he's going. I don't think he's got much of an opportunity, unfortunately. But some of these guys at the end, like Coach Tyler said, and I mentioned just now, have opportunity for you to kind of produce. Jamie said, "Repo, no, no Respo, no." Well, we'll have to wait and see. Again, you're not drafting a lot of these guys at this point in your rookie drafts, but they should be. Some of them should be considered waiver wire bench, well, not bench, but taxi squad places for your team going into 2025. So, but that is going to wrap us up tonight, guys. We are all done for now. Coach Tyler, anything you want to say before we sign off for the night?
Plug, go check out dynastynerds.com. Had a lot pre-draft, have a lot post-draft. That's where me and Coach Steve connected. That's where we did a lot of our film work. And now as we're going into draft season, that's a lot of rankings, a lot of great experts out there putting out their rankings, a lot of great articles coming out, and the Dynasty GM helping us value our trades, helping us value our teams going into our rookie drafts. And as we get closer to the season, our redrafts. So go check out dynastynerds.com. Use code COACH when you get over there. Let them know that we sent you. And thank y'all for checking us out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thank you guys all for tuning in tonight, whether it's your first time or if it's your a lot of the times joining in our show today. Jamie, Fantasy Dog, the other guy's name, Big Rice Ball. Appreciate you guys kind of tuning in the chat, talking a little bit there. Love that always. So we'll be back. Actually, we'll be back in a few hours. Actually, we're going to do another show tonight because of our schedules and my schedule, actually. We'll be back probably like in a couple hours doing the running backs and the tight ends. So if you want to hear more, guys. Mike Hicks. Yes, I love Mike. Forgot he said your co-host. Yes, he does. Mike does write for Dynasty Nerds. So, but we'll be back in a few hours around 9 p.m., 9:30 Eastern for another hour show talking about the running backs and tight ends. But until then, guys, we thank you all for listening. Tune in until next time, guys, in a few hours, and we'll see you guys then, guys. Take care.
Back to back is not